Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is February 13th, and right now we are looking at the mid-level water vapor loop, Washington, Oregon, California. Check out our low pressure system, spreading precipitation back up across Oregon, pushing towards western Washington as we speak. Our winter storm is finally here. Messy transition for some areas as we go through Friday for what places west of the Cascades, but it's going to stay cool and chilly on the east side as well, so that's going to be a problem on in through the rest of this weekend. There's going to be some snow and freezing rain potential as we go on in towards the early portion of next week east of the Cascades. But if you want the warm up, it's coming eventually. As we go through the day Friday, we're going to warm things up southwest BC, western Washington, and western Oregon and get back more towards a normal pattern as we go through the extended forecast and kind of a stormy one at times as well. I'll show you that more here in a moment. Taking a look at the infrared satellite imagery, clearly you can see the moisture being spread north. We got freezing rain, some snowfall flying here for western portions of Oregon, and we'll dive into those details a bit more here in a moment. If you want to help support the channel, get your own nice home weather station, great smartphone app, stores the data for you in cloud. Click on the link down below to save 10% off. So looking at Seattle right now, Seattle National Weather Service, they still have winter weather advisories. The models are throwing some last minute monkey wrenches into things here, and we'll go over some of that here in the moment. I'll show you the latest in the weather model, especially the brand new European 12Z run. But across western Oregon, ice storm warning is the purple. The pink there is the winter storm warning. That's some snowfall there for Portland. And we've got extreme cold warnings for the east wind still roaring through the gorge and up towards the Stampede Gap. Very chilly as well. Got a call from a friend that Enumclaw is absolutely roaring this morning with those east winds. Winter weather advisories widespread here across southwest Washington and much of western Oregon as well. And if we take a look at that ice storm warning, this goes through 4 a.m. on Friday morning. Could extend a little bit longer than that, but you can see all of the cities listed here, Central Oregon Coast Range here. So check out this and the NOAA site if you need to know individual details for your areas. But significant ice accumulation is possible. Power lines, tree limbage may cause power outages. So Aviation Weather Center. So I brought this up this morning. You can see where the winter storm warning is. It looks like we have actually heavy snow right now at Portland. Check that out. And look at this. Winds gusting at 35 knots out of the east. Half mile visibility, quarter mile there at the surface for the observer, half mile at the tower. But yeah, crazy stuff out there. I mean, look at that. Aurora is snowing right now. We've got some moderate snow flying for McMinnville. Yeah, so crazy stuff there. And it is below freezing. There's Salem. It's also snowing. Let's check out Corvallis. It is light snow as we speak. And Tillamook, I believe, was reporting some unknown precipitation. That might actually be some freezing rain mixed in there because it is still below freezing. So watch out for some of the slick, treacherous conditions there on the Oregon coast. We go inland a bit here as well. Look at the Dalles, only 19 degrees, moderate snow occurring. So yeah, nice winter storm is blowing through here. Hood River there also light snow. Winds out of the east at 9 knots. So taking a look here at Medford National Weather Service, not looking at snowfall for Medford or Rogue Valley themselves, but across the higher terrain, including the Siskiyou Summit. Disruptive snowfall, and they even got a picture of Siskiyou Summit here on the right, so heads up for that. Be prepared for delays and road closures. And Pendleton National Weather Service, there are plenty of winter weather advisories out there. Blowing and drifty snow are likely, so have travel plans. You guys know your snow driving tips. This is updated this morning by Pendleton, Oregon National Weather Service. Snow Friday and Friday night. Check it out. You can kind of see where the higher amounts are across Spokane, Pullman. Look at Ritzville 1 to 2, Walla Walla 2 to 3, Lewiston 2 to 3, and higher amounts across the higher terrain. Also some snow incoming down for Boise, Idaho as well. Now, taking a look here at where we are, the models picked up on this system pretty well with the cold air in place. So that's what we were dealing with right now. So we're going to have some of the colder air locked in until we go to Friday morning, the messy transition here for some portions of western Oregon and western Washington. Another system will be rolling in this weekend. It'll still be cold enough east for some snow and some freezing rain, perhaps back into the Cascades, where some of that colder air is trapped into some of the pass areas. And then we're going to continue some of this active weather as we go through next week. We've got additional systems trying to push into the Pacific Northwest here as we start to, deal with this more westerly and southwesterly flow, warm things up and bring back the rainfall here to the region. And so looking at what we're dealing with this morning, you can see why this is such an issue with this moisture riding back up over the area. We're dealing with sub-freezing temperatures across western Oregon and western Washington in the meantime. So that is why we're getting the freezing rain and the snowfall like I saw. heavy snow, the last observation there for Portland, Oregon. So some snow accumulating out there already, no doubt. And then as we go through tonight, this is where the models get a little bit tricky here, because the North American model is still showing some snow occurring through Friday morning across western Washington. The European shows something a bit different. We'll go over that here in a moment. But you can see all the way through Friday morning, we're still dealing with the sub-freezing temperatures down into the Willamette Valley here. And for western Washington, we scrolled a little bit further, and now we're about 8 a.m., 9, 10, 11. And you can see things start to finally warm up as we go back to our more typical pattern here across the Pacific Northwest. But it might be kind of a painful transition, especially for western Oregon as we go through the day Friday. Now, if we take a look at the composite reflectivity on the North American model, the pink is freezing rain. So check that out. You can see the snow coming up here as we go through this morning. For Portland, this moves up into southwest Washington. North American model wants to bring this band up here for rush hour across Seattle and some Olympia, Tacoma. This band spins around and kind of impacts some of Snohomish County there as well, moves across the Kitsap Peninsula. And then we shut off the east winds as we go through Friday morning. And if the snow band is still around, then you get some better chances off to the east of Seattle. But that's a big if right now. The European is showing something different, which I'm about to show you here in a moment. So accumulated positive snow depth change in inches on last night's run. So I'll show you some of the issues we are having here with forecasting this, because you can see this would be kind of disruptive here for Seattle. You're looking at over an inch of snowfall. That's disruptive for Seattle, especially if it's below freezing. Kitsap Peninsula, maybe 1, 2, 3 inches of snow. And yeah, some of the foothill areas up over 2 inches as well. Portland, snow totals about 2 inches, but that was the 0-6Z run. Let's look at the 12Z run. This throws a bit of a monkey wrench into things. It ups some of the totals here for some of the Portland metro as we go on in through Friday morning, but then it largely leaves out a lot of western Washington. You see, you went from almost 2 inches accumulation to, just very slight amounts. So that is kind of a last second monkey wrench being thrown at us here by the European. The cutoff there, just Olympia south with some more significant snowfalls. It could be for Kelso and maybe Chehalis an inch or two as well. So yeah, interesting change here last minute on the European, but this would be kind of disruptive here for western Oregon. These are accumulated snow depth change in inches. This is not just some cherry pick 10-to-1 ratio here. If you look at the Kuchera, you can see you're looking at 4 inches there, 10-to-1. You're talking about 4+ inches across some of western Oregon. So yeah, crazy stuff there. Now, accumulated positive snow change in inches on the North American model. Let's take a look at that. And you can see it does also show this up for western Washington, Seattle, and maybe a couple inches for the Portland metro, some of the Willamette Valley also. So you can see the difficulty we're having because the European at the last second comes into the 12Z run and kind of makes you doubt everything about what's going to happen across western Washington tonight and on into tomorrow morning. But one thing we're pretty sure of, there's an ice storm warning here across portions of western Oregon. And again, some pretty decent amount showing up here. I mean, you're looking at up some areas getting up over a half an inch of ice accretion here across western Oregon, but not showing a lot for the gorge or for Portland. It's showing a lot of that staying as snowfall here on the European as the 12Z run. The North American model shows something similar here as well. It shows some, maybe an inch, a tenth of an inch or two for some of the gorge there in Oregon, but definitely not a huge ice storm as far as things go. You can get much more there for the gorge of Oregon into the eastern portions of the Portland metro. So cold air is stubborn. It wants to hang around longer than the models say it will. So don't be surprised if your temperatures remain below freezing a little bit longer than maybe tomorrow morning for eastern Oregon, where you're getting some of that cold pool leaking back out. But then the winds will change as we go through tomorrow, and we'll start to scour that cold air out. Now, if we take a look at Portland, for example, let's scroll through this morning. You can see the entire column of the atmosphere is below the freezing line there. So you're at the surface, you're at 5,000 feet, you're at 10,000 feet, you're at 18,000 feet there. Everything is below. That's why it should be snow. But as we go on in through this afternoon, you start to get a bit of that warm tongue. So there may be some of the melting of those snowflakes and maybe some refreezing back into snow pellets or maybe some ice pellets out there as well, maybe mixing in, otherwise known as sleet. And then you can see, again, depending on just how much of this warm air aloft gets in there, it wouldn't take that much to make this into kind of a freezing rain event for Portland, but the dendrite growth zone is, up here. So it should be snow falling into this warmer layer there. Is that going to be enough to melt it to rain to refreeze at the surface? The models say that it's probably not. Then we look at Seattle, Tacoma, and as we go through tonight into tomorrow morning, it does show the column of the atmosphere being cold enough to support snow, but will the moisture be there is the big question. Kind of puts a big monkey wrench into things, seeing that 12Z European model run not showing much moisture across western Washington. So 2,500 feet. We're looking at winds. There's Seattle. There's Portland here. There's Eastern Washington, Eastern Oregon. You see the winds ripping across the Cascades here through the gorge. Stampede Gap, Stevens Pass, Fraser River outflow is going. And then watch what happens as we go on in towards about midnight, right there, early morning hours. We cut that off and we start to bring the winds out of the north and the east winds die off across some of the gorge areas. This is when Seattle would be more susceptible to some of this accumulating snowfall. If there's still moisture around with these north winds, you could still be below freezing and accumulating that snow. But again, the European showing not much moisture around. And then as we go through Friday afternoon, we turn the flow back to westerly, southwesterly, and we're going to start to bring more of that marine air back in here. And we're going to finally go above freezing, and we're going to remain so for a while as the storm train returns to the Pacific Northwest, more typical pattern. So on that note, let's take a look at what the GFS on the 12Z run shows. There's the system there. We got a weekend system coming through here. Again, could create some freezing rain into the passes of the Cascades where that cold air is trapped at the surface, and for eastern Washington, Oregon, some additional snowfall with that, maybe some freezing rain as well. And then we bring another system as we go through midweek. We have this westerly zonal flow and some of these systems trying to traverse across the Pacific Northwest. And yeah, the storm track would be pointed at the Pacific Northwest here as we go through the extended forecast through the end of February shown there. Taking a look at that same map here, just kind of showing you what the surface pressure map would look like and precipitation amounts. There goes this weekend system. And then we scroll through next week. The next storm system will be arriving probably on Tuesday night, Wednesday. And then we continue these precipitation makers here and maybe some atmospheric river potential as we go through the extended forecast there as well, kind of looking a little bit too far out, but clearly a completely different pattern change than what we have been having with this very cold air around. We're definitely going to warm things back up. What else here? 6 to 10 day, kind of a mixed bag across Pacific Northwest. There's our precipitation outlook, and there's the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. We go back above normal here for the West Coast through the second half of February, and the 8 to 14 day, kind of a mixed bag. I definitely take this with a grain of salt for what we just saw with the GFS. Frog in my throat. Okay. Now, taking a look here across the snowpack, we need that storm track to come back at us here because we are below normal. This is not a good look for a La Nina here, northern Idaho, western Montana as well. They've reintroduced some drought here across the Cascades of Washington and the Olympic Peninsula also. And check before you go. It just might save your life. We lose people to wave action on the coastline. It's sneaker waves and big waves, and then the avalanche danger gets people every single year. So check before you go. It just takes a few minutes. It'll tell you a lot of good information if you're going out across the mountainous areas, snowboarding or snowshoeing or hiking or whatever you may be doing. Check before you go. But yeah, let's get this video out here. I'll probably be back at some point tonight, maybe to do a live stream. I'll check out the models today and maybe do another video also, depending on what it shows for Western Washington, because right now, Western Oregon is under the gun, but still, even at this point, we're dealing with a lot of uncertainty. You saw the 12Z NAM showing snowfall, fairly significant, inch or two for Seattle Metro versus very little on the European. So even at this last minute portion of the forecast, we're dealing with this uncertainty still. But anyway, hope you guys are having a good day. Otherwise, I'll talk to you later today, and I will see you then.